I keep falling, never falling 6 feet deep. For real, G, I'ma fulfill my dream. The mind activation, react like I'm facing time. Like for real, G, I'ma fulfill my dream. I keep falling, never falling 6 feet deep. For real, G, I'ma fulfill my dream. The mind activation, react like I'm facing time. Like for real, G, I'ma fulfill my dream.
Yeah, fuck your handouts, we here to stand out. Told mama your youngest child got a plan, damn. God's will, I'm about to shine now. No chill, I rush in like Blau. Hit you with that ill style, no deny. Since a youngin' marching to my own beat. Never frontin', kept the lawyer, overcoming the heat. Dedicated since the soil, learned to walk on my feet. Doctor said I'd have my limits, I accept.
Hey everybody, this is David with Rocky Mountain Sports Report here to let you know that AviCore Mobile Power Wash is an industry leader in commercial cleaning services. They specialize in washing commercial vehicles, including but not limited to tractors, trailers, bobcats, front loaders, rear loaders, pickups, and much more. Have an oil stain? Give AviCore a call. Oil spills? Call AviCore. Parking lot, sidewalks, and commercial containers. You know who to call. AviCore. If you need it clean and want the best prices in town, then give AviCore Mobile Power Wash a call at 303-585-1129. All right, good morning, Bronco fans.
Good morning.
It's David with Rocky Mountain Sports Report. We got Alex joining us, and we got Matt as well. So, hey, everybody out there, shoot us your comments, your questions, let us know what your thoughts are on the game, your predictions, everything. We're here to talk about anything Broncos related today. First thing we're going to break down, guys, injuries. We're sort of fairly healthy with the people that we have out. I mean, right now we have Deontay Spencer, who's out. Juwan James is out. Driscoll's out, of course. And then today we got questionable. We got Jerry Jeudy and Lindsey, who they both seem to be ready to go. And then Malik Reed. So Malik Reed is going to be a game time decision. So let's talk about him, Matt and Alex. Alex, why don't you give us your take first? If Malik's not able to go today, I mean, how's that going to impact our ability to slow down this Kansas City offense?
Well, I mean, really, we need all the help we can get. So us missing Malik Reed is going to be kind of a big deal. No matter how you look at it, if he's there, if he's not there, we're going to need some kind of impact from whoever's on the field today. I know that Malik Reed is he's a big part of our defense as of, all the injuries happening this year to us and the COVID protocol and all the stuff that's been going on with our roster. To have a person like Malik Reed out there on the field is going to be a big deal for this Broncos defense. So,
okay, Matt, same question to you. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, we have a hard time slowing down Pat Mahomes as it is already when we have, Vaughn and Chubb on the field. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for every team. If Malik Reed's unable to go, it'll most likely be Jeremiah Attaochu stepping in. I mean, Atachu's a vet. He's been around forever. I mean, I still think we could get pressure on him, but I think it's going to I think what we've seen be successful is when we create the interior pressure and force the quarterbacks to stay in the pocket. Mahomes is versatile, though. He could throw from the pocket, but I think if we generate that interior push, we could probably still get in his face and hopefully make him push him into some bad decisions. Definitely Malik Reed is out today. We're going to have to see some creative blitz and stunts in the interior D line. So let's see. But I mean, it's going to be a challenge either way. So let's see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. It will be a challenge. And if Malik Reed can't go, then how much do you see Attaochu, stepping in and playing? Probably be the majority of the snaps, right?
Yeah, he's going to have to. I'm not sure if they brought up Derek Suzuka, or I can't even pronounce the last name. It's one of the weirdest ones I've seen. I mean, even then, he's still rather inexperienced, and we haven't really seen like a dominant presence for him. And then there's Anthony Chickillo. I mean, he's bounced around a little bit. We could see Chickillo start over Attaochu. I wouldn't be surprised. Chickillo's been having more reps throughout the game in the last couple of weeks. But if you're looking for the more of the pass rush, then it has to be Attaochu's your better guy. Chickillo's just more versatile to play coverage.
Right. Okay, and we got We got Shelby Harris coming back today. He's probably going to be on a snap count. Fangio even addressed that in his press conference on, I believe it was Friday, said, he's been out for 4 weeks. He's recovering from COVID. He's probably going to be limited on the number of snaps he can go. I think we really need him. 2 of our last 3 games we've given up 200 yards rushing, to to Las Vegas Raiders. And then the Saints, of course, shredded us on the ground as well. So having Shelby Harris in there helps also to get some of that interior pass rush going for us, so Mahomes can't step up into that pocket so easily if we have that interior rush. So what are your thoughts on how much you think we'll see him today, Alex?
Like you said, it's going to be limited. Coming back from COVID, that's obviously a respiratory condition a little bit. So I don't anticipate he'll be in full football shape at this time. So, like I said, they're definitely going to keep an eye on how many snaps he plays. And, hopefully in those snaps that he does play, I would anticipate he's going to make a big impact because he is a big part of our run defense and just, a great player that we need on our team to be on the field. I know that it'll be limited today, but I would expect him to, try and make as much of an impact as he can. So
yeah, Scott Cole. Sorry about that. Scott brings up a good point here. Whoever plays in the place of Reed is going to have to apply some pressure on that O-line. So, and I think we're going to have to do that in general. Kansas City's fairly healthy, Matt. The only person they have listed on their injury report is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he's a non-COVID related illness, and he's a game time decision. So we're catching them at a very healthy time for themselves.
Yeah, and he's going to be on the field. I'm almost guaranteeing he'll be on the field. He'll find a way. And Edwards-Helaire he's killing it. He's probably been the best rookie running back out of this draft class. He's taking the league by storm. He's a threat in the receiving game. He's a threat rushing up the gut. He's super fast. Got great hands. So let's hope we find a way to contain him if he does play today. Just to kind of circle back to the Shelby Harris thing, he did also release in a press conference that if anyone's expecting him to play a full game, they're out of their mind. He's not in football shape. I think he said that it might even be a snap count of less than 40.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could have a big impact on our defensive line. So, but it's nice to have him back even for 30 or 40 plays. So
yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah. So we'll see. Recovering from COVID is probably not the easiest thing to do, and it probably zaps you to go out there and try to play a professional football game after recovering from it. It's a hard one. So Dennis Russell here says the Broncos win because it's his birthday. We hope you do get that birthday present, Dennis.
Yeah, we're rooting for you.
It's also my daughter's birthday and Alex's sister Brittany. It's her birthday as well. So hopefully, we do get a victory, today.
That would be fantastic.
Here's a question. I do not know the answer to this.
I know the answer, unfortunately.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So we haven't won since Peyton left.
Well, I know, but they're asking when's the last time we won at Arrowhead without Peyton. So with Peyton, we won in 2015. So going back before 2015, when's the last time we won in that place?
Oh, God. It would probably be, my guess would be 2012. No, because we had Peyton in 2012.
Yeah, so if we got some of our crack people who are watching, Scott or Dennis or someone, if you could look
I could tell you right now.
Pop in there. Matt's going to look it up as well. So, all right, so let's get on to the scary part of the game. All right, Kansas City, when they have the ball. So,
all right, I got the answer real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Tim
Matt.
Tebow beat him at Arrowhead in 2011 by a score of 17-10.
Wow. So it goes back. So definitely does. So, all right, let's talk about when Kansas City has the ball. We know our secondary is depleted. Callahan, who's probably our best corner, is out. today, and he's on IR, minimum of 3 weeks, and he may be out for the season because I don't see any reason to push him. If we're not going anywhere, there's really no reason to try to push him. So, Matt, what is your thoughts on how are we going to slow down this attack of Hill and Kelsey and Watkins and Harden, all those? How are we going to slow these guys down at all?
It's not an easy task, that's for sure. It starts with that interior presence. If we can get pressure on Mahomes, and then Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson are going to have a huge game. They're probably going to be the responsible for covering Kelsey. I mean, he eats linebackers for dinner these days. Let's just hope that AJ can stay with him. I know AJ's been the one we've been using in coverage lately since Jules really stepped up in the run game. We could see Simmons slide over there, but with the issues in our secondary, they're probably going to want him over the top because of Tyreek's insane speed. It does sound like Callahan's probably going to be out the rest of the season, like you mentioned. If I was Denver, I would send out Bosby, Ojemudia, and Bouye. Sorry, I would. Bouye makes me nervous though, especially if we're going to be trying to blitz through the middle. That means we're going to be playing man coverage. We've seen him step up the last couple of weeks, but he doesn't have the speed to keep up with McCole Hardman. He doesn't have the speed to keep up with Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins. He doesn't got the speed to keep up with any of them really. So I mean, it's really going to be interesting to see how Vic does play it. Do we go back to like the zone blitz scheme where we are playing zone because of the depleted secondary, or are we just to the point where we're not really in the playoffs? What do we have to lose? Let's see if we have something here. I mean, right. It's difficult to see how he's going to approach it. I would just keep it the defensive game plan that we've seen the last few weeks. It's been working. It's been effective. And it's you see a lot of teams kind of traditionally stay in that man coverage scheme if they have the personnel, which we don't. But let's test these guys. We got a lot of young guys out there. We need to see what Ojemudia has got. We got to see what Bassey's got. We got to see what Elijah Holder's got. There's tons of young guys out there. We got to really let's put them on the spot. This is the best team to do it against. This is probably the best offense in the game. Definitely one of the best receiving corps. So,
and I agree. And Alex, based on that philosophy, we're sort of almost in audition time now for people for next year.
Well, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. At this moment, I want we're kind of like you said, it's audition time. If you want to make this team next year. Or if you even want to have you kind of want to leave that imprint on your coaching staff, because there's been subtle hints that Fangio is going to stick around and, that this coaching staff is going to kind of be here next year. So you kind of want to make an imprint on these people and make it last until you get on the field next year and, show them what you're worth again. But to kind of circle back to what Matt was saying about keeping the same defensive game plan, I agree. But at the same time, we're gonna have to have a few tricks up our sleeves if we truly. I know that it's kind of a stretch to go out and say we're going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs because they are one of the most dynamic offenses and their defense has only gotten better since last year. But we're going to have to come with something special that they've never seen from this Denver Broncos defense and offense if we truly plan on winning this game. So while keeping that base formation or, keeping that base defensive game plan that we had last week, we're still going to need to do something a little different to slow down Pat Mahomes and company. So,
yeah, it definitely starts with stunts at the D line. That's where it has to start. They have to confuse those interior offensive linemen. That's where it's going to have to start.
And I wrote in my breakdown of the game is, we need to figure out how to get pressure on Mahomes with 3 and 4 people. If we're going to rely on the blitz, then I just think it's going to be a long day. Now, we can use the blitz, but it can't be, in my opinion, it cannot be our predominant defensive scheme is to go out there and just blitz him. I think Mahomes is too smart. And I think they have too many weapons. And if we try to blitz him, Mahomes is just going to pick us apart. So,
well, if he knows it's coming, he's going to do something about it. There's no way that Pat Mahomes is going to just sit there in the pocket and let someone come and sack him. Whether it's him changing the play at the line or using his legs to get out of the blitz, whatever it may be, he's going to torch us if we're not smart about it. So
right. It's going to have to be a good mix. I mean, you just can't. I mean, we're going to have to find a way to get pressure on him, whether it's a 4 or 6 man rush, either way. But we just can't sit back in zone like what we were doing previous the Dolphins game. We were getting picked apart by quarterbacks that were nowhere near on the same level as Pat Mahomes.
You know
So
what?
sitting back in the zone isn't going to work either.
Right.
Well,
So sorry, Alex, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just going to go and say, something that I've seen kind of work for other or defenses in the past against Patrick Mahomes is kind of a fake blitz. So you act like you're blitzing and then you drop into coverage. I've seen him. That's probably where you're going to get Pat Mahomes at his worst. And, even at his worst, it's still not very bad. So you're just going to have to figure out things like that, confuse the guy. I know it's a hard thing to do because he is a smart young man. But at the end of the day, if you can throw, some shades at him and, do different things that, maybe he's never seen before a couple different times, all we need is 1 or 2 turnovers to make this a ball game. And,
Yeah.
And I agree. Our defense is when the Chiefs have the ball, our defense is going to have to get some turnovers.
Yeah, this is the battle of the coaches as well. This is Reed versus Vic, who's going to have the better scheme. And as we've seen in the last few matchups, it's been Mr. Reed. So let's see if Vic can come up with something creative.
Yeah, the last 3 games, the Chiefs have outscored the Broncos 32 to Denver having just a little over 8 points. So 8.3 points a game is what we're averaging over the last 3 games, and they're averaging 32 points a game. So we got to figure something out. 1, we got to slow them down, and 2, we have to cause some turnovers and put our offense into good positions, where they can succeed and they don't have to drive 75 yards against the Chiefs. So I want to jump on this question really quick. We got a question in here about Locke. I want to come back to it, but at first I want to look at this one here because I think this is important. Important. How many points does Denver realistically need to put on the board to shock the Chiefs? Matt, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so I think in my prediction, I had I broke down the points per game average. I feel like Kansas City was sitting just above 32 points per game. That's their average right now. So I'll just use that as a basis. We got to score more than 32 points. They're putting up ridiculous amounts of points on everyone this year.
They are.
A realistic number for me would be 20. You have to score at least 28 points.
Okay, Alex, the question.
I'm gonna agree with Matt on that one. I think that 28 points is a comfortable number. If our defense can go out there and make some plays, like I said, cause a few turnovers, I don't see why 28 points can not be a reasonable number and a number that can get us a W in this situation.
Okay, so now I'm going to throw another question at you, Alex, and we're going to sort of transition into when the Broncos have the football. How does our offense score 28 points?
I'm going to say primarily running the football. It's worked for us in the past few weeks. I know it didn't really work for us against the Saints, but at the same time, we didn't have a quarterback. So that's kind of, running the ball. I think we ran the ball over 30 times in that game. So, this week we need to have a balance. I think that with Drew Lock being back and, this offense kind of being in the normalist it's been, we need to run the ball and effectively use play action because that's where Drew Lock succeeds, it seems like. And at the end of the day, if we can't set up the pass with the run, then we're not going to have any success. So I would say that running the football is going to be the number one deal for this offense.
Okay, Matt, same thing to you. What do you think? How do we go out there and score the 28 points that are going to be required to have a chance to beat this Chiefs team?
Well, it's going to be easier said than done, but I'm actually going to take the opposite side of what Alex just said. I think the Chiefs are expecting us to come in wanting to control the clock and run the ball. Two things that are hurting us is Melvin Gordon can't seem to hold on to the ball. And Chiefs have been this is one of their best turnover years. That defense is ball hawking for sure. And Philip Lindsay's not 100%. I mean, right. And we haven't seen any productive. I mean, we've seen Royce Freeman get a couple good runs against New Orleans out of that Wildcat formation. But I said it in my prediction, and I'll say it here. This is Locke's make or break game, in my opinion. he has to go out there and put up a performance. Does that mean he has to go up and put up 4 touchdowns to, go pound for pound with Pat? No. But I think it's going to be up to him to really get the ball moving this week. They're going to expect us to go with this ground and pound, control the clock. And, it worked in Miami, and then it's not working against New Orleans. It hasn't worked in the past for us. Play action is great, but I mean, if we can't get the pass going, the run lanes aren't going to open. They're going to be stacking the box just like New Orleans did.
Right. So
New Orleans gave Kendall Hinton was back there, sure, but that gave them a game plan to how to stop our running backs, because in the traditional formation, Phillip Lindsay nor Melvin Gordon were getting any yards last week.
yeah, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex or Matt, I think the last time that we played the Chiefs back in week 7, maybe 2, I can't remember, whatever it was. They had quite a few sacks on us, and I think a lot of that pressure came from the right side where Elijah Wilkinson was playing. So I think with Dotson being in there, we might be able to, not give up as many sacks this time, and which is going to be key. But we have to get Drew Lock has to get it in his head that he cannot just abandon the pocket,
Right.
at the first sign. So, and we're really going to need our interior guys, the guards in the center, to really keep that push from the center, keep it at bay, so he has room to step up in that pocket. Because if he doesn't see room, his only thing is he's going to roll out, get out of the pocket, abandon it, and then,
Huck the ball.
We know what happens. We know what happens at that point,
Yeah.
So Cody here says this 10 game losing streak needs to end today, and it definitely does. And the way you're making it sound, Matt, all of this pressure is on Drew Lock today. Drew Lock really has to go out and win this game today.
I think the pressure is on him, and I think it's on from the media because of the whole stuff that we seen last week. It's on because he hasn't shown progression since last year. He's actually regressed significantly. One thing that I do want to highlight, kind of going back to just the formations in this game. So I do think Alex and I are both onto something. It is going to be about a balance. So when I said you got to put the game on him, like I said, it doesn't mean you got to have 4 touchdowns pound for pound with Mahomes. It means lining up in that 12 and 13 personnel with those 2 tight ends, seeing if you can effectively get the run game going. And if you can't, you still have your options to throw. But this is where it comes down to Lock. Can he remain in the pocket? Can he plant that back foot and resist his urge to throw it 25 yards down the field? That's where it is, because we see Noah Fant be constantly open in the 5 to 10 yard flats. We've seen Jerry Jeudy open and Hamler wide open on slant routes. He's got to not abandon the middle of the field in the flats in order to hit a deep post or a deep cross route. We could eat them alive if he just stayed in the pocket, plants his feet, and makes his initial reads. We're taking the protection, him having to read the protection and where the blitz is away from him when we're lining up in the 12 and 13 personnel. He has an extra blocker. He has an extra chip. He has an extra guy that's within 2 to 3 yards of him if he has to dump it off. That's the whole purpose of this personnel, is to take that pressure, that mental pressure, off of Drew Lock. So we've seen him kind of get into a rhythm a little bit when we started doing the 12 and 13 personnel. So let's stick to that. But Drew, you got to step up and make plays. You can't just, like you said, roll out of the pocket and then overthrow your receiver by 15 yards.
Right. No, I agree. So, and he needs to make sure he's looking for those short routes.
And another thing we can't do is we can't let Drew Lock throw the ball 35 times a game today, or 35 times today.
Surprisingly, that would be a low number for him.
Yeah, I know. I know. But
he's north of 40 mostly every game.
It's just not something that I think is going to help us win this football game. Obviously, it all depends, like I said earlier, on the run game. If we can get that going, then I would expect him, if we're sitting around 30 at the end of the game, I'm fine with that. But if we're looking at the mid-4th quarter and he's already thrown the ball 30 times, then I think at that point you can't suspect that we're not going to be in trouble with the Chiefs. So,
and I think the biggest key here is we cannot get down early by 2 scores. If we get down early by 2 scores, then that makes
has been playing. There's no way that we can come back against.
Excuse me, and that then makes us one-dimensional, because that just takes the running game out of the equation at all. And and then they're just going to start bringing the pressure. I think that they would start doing some blitz schemes that are probably going to confuse Locke. I think Locke has problems or issues with pre-snap reads. Where pressure's coming from, what kind of coverages he needs to put people into. I think he has issues identifying that, and then getting it into hot routes and things like that. So a lot of pressure is on Locke today, and I'm with Alex. If we're north of 35 passes, then I don't see us having a very balanced attack, and I think it's going to be a long day. So next thing we're going to do is first we're going to check out a video that Alex has made. Last week we introduced this segment. It is called Getting to Know Your Broncos. Last week we did DeMarcus Walker. Today Alex is doing Will Parks. We'll watch the video, then we'll come back. And then after that, we got a couple more segments. So let's watch this video really quick, and then Alex will give us some info on Will Parks.
When you give me all your love, then I give you all my time. Together we can own the night. Together we can let's make the sunshine bash. Come let the water splash. Makes me feel so fine. Together we can Together we can
All right, Alex, thanks for making that video there. Why don't you give us a little bit more information on Will Parks?
All right. So as you saw in the video, obviously former University of Arizona Wildcat. That hits home for me. One of my favorite schools because I spent 10 years living in Tucson, Arizona. So, that's just awesome for me. Obviously, we know that Will Parks separated with the Denver Broncos after last season, went to Philly, and then we just re-signed him off waivers last week. So just, all around, I think he's a baller. I think the dude has skill to be in this league for a long time. Great tackler, ball hawk at times, can basically do anything you want him to do on the field. And, just a fun fact about Will Parks. Me and him also share this fun fact is that one of his favorite foods is a McDonald's hot and spicy. So, but
well, you're finding something that you have in common with all these guys. Last week it's Harry Potter. Today it's the McDonald's hot and spicy sandwich.
And what can I say? These football players got good taste.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, it is good. Unfortunately, he won't be available today because I think we could use him back there. Matt, what do you think Will Parks brings to this defense the rest of the season?
So, before I even get to that, I just want to highlight my favorite Will Parks play. I don't know if you guys remember this a couple years ago. Steelers tight end is taking it like a 65, 70-yard touchdown. And Will Parks catches up and obliterates him right at the goal line, and the guy fumbles, and it fumbles out of the back, ends up being a touchback for the Broncos. One of the best plays ever. But Will Parks brings versatility. He's like a poor man's Kareem Jackson. That's how I can best describe him. He's solid in coverage. He can drop down, play nickel and dime. That was one of the biggest reasons why we got him, especially with so many injuries to the secondary. So he's great in coverage. He can lay the wood like Kareem can. But we see him make mental mistakes. He gets in his own head. Sometimes he especially if he's in zone and he's in his natural position of strong safety, we'll see him kind of start to drift back, and that leaves the Travis Kelce wide open across the middle. So just little things that he needs to clean up. I mean, at this point of his career, it's hard for people to clean up their tendencies. I say that when I'm referencing Drew Lock all the time. But just little mental mistakes is his big thing. I mean, he's a solid plug and play starter. If Kareem Jackson is parts ways with us and we feel comfortable keeping Will Parks, I'm 100% confident Will Parks could step in and play that role if we asked him to.
Right.
He's quality. I mean,
All right, and you mentioned Drew Lock, and our next segment here is two things we need to see improvement on. And this is from the Broncos in whole, not just Drew Lock. But now I said I had a question that I wanted to put on hold, and I'm going to pop it up there now because I think this is something that all of us are going to have on our list of things that need to improve. And here it is. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. If Locke doesn't show improvement during the last few games, what's next? And we've talked about this ad nauseum at times. What's next for the Broncos? So let's start with you, Alex.
Okay.
Two things that the Denver Broncos need to improve today, and going forward, to help us start building for next season. We know we're not going to make a run. We're not going to go to the playoffs. I mean, that's just being a realist now. So what do we want to start seeing? And it doesn't have to be Drew Lock. It could be other positions. Other things as well. Of two things you need to see us improve in, going forward.
The first thing is going to be consistency. All year we've been talking about how everything's been kind of up and down. And I get it. Every team's different. You're going to face different challenges every week between different teams. But at the end of the day, you have a system in place, whether it's on offense or defense. And, we just got to see consistency, whether it's out of Drew Lock, whether it's out of Phillip Lindsay, whether it's out of our defensive line, whatever it may be, we have to be consistent. I don't care if we're, at least if we're consistently bad, we can make a judgment on that. We can make a new plan if it's whether it's the coaching, whether we need to get new players in there. The consistency has to be there. And then the second thing I want to see is, I know it sounds cliche, but improvement. We've got to get better from week to week. I know that we're a young team, one of the youngest in the NFL, if not the youngest, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But we just got to improve every week. I know that people say that there's no days off in the NFL, but as it seems, there's been weeks off from certain players and certain position groups. We just need to get better. And that's all I can say. So.
And I agree with you there. So, and Matt will go the same thing. A couple things that you need to see improvement on for us to improve going forward.
You already know where I'll go with this. So quarterback play, I'll circle back to that, but quarterback play we have to see improvement there. This is a quarterback's league these days. With all the way the NFL is kind of pioneered their ways into being this high scoring league. The NFL has kind of made it hard to be by the old motto of defense wins championships. And, it can, I'm not saying it can't, but with the way that with the new rules and how much protections the quarterbacks get and really just the massive amount of talent we're seeing at that position come out of the draft every year, it's become a quarterback league. So it starts with quarterback improvement, but I'll circle back to Locke in a second. The thing is, I'm just going to highlight something that Alex said, consistency, but I want to see defensive consistency. I want to see, it always seems like we have really good games for sure, but it always seems like there's like a fluidity issue. Especially it starts with our secondary. If I'm being honest, you'll see Bassey and Justin Simmons look at each other after whoever the quarterback is drops a dime in between them. They're like, it's your fault. It's your fault. You see them always looking at each other with their hands up. There's no fluidity in that secondary. And especially, I get it, injuries have hurt us, but Bouye, Bassey, and Callahan, Simmons, and Jackson have been on the field pretty much majority of the season together. We should have seen some kind of fluidity by now, but we see them constant. There's something always wrong. There's always a blown coverage somewhere. But that's my two things. But circling back to Locke in this question, if I'm being 100% transparent, this is my opinion. Locke is on borrowed time. I think the only way, if he magically comes out, wins, 4 out of the next 6, maybe we see him next year. But with Elway being in the last year of his contract, the ownership entire issue and the potential that there's a chance that he's not going to be around as a trust member or the GM after next year potentially, he's probably going to want to go out with the bang. We see it talked about on local media here everywhere. There's tons of veteran quarterbacks that are going to be available next year via trade and even potentially in free agency. I would be a fool not to think that Elway would be considering those options. It's his record, kind of bringing this battered old vet and see if we could ride it into the sunrise. So, like I said, I think Locke, you're on borrowed time unless you show significant improvement, my friend.
And I agree with that 100%. I've been fairly vocal. I mean, Alex remembers 2 years ago, I was pounding the table for Drew Lock. I wanted Drew Lock. I thought Drew Lock could be a good NFL quarterback, and something, just mentally is not clicking with him. You and I have also talked about this, Matt. There's some things you just can't change when you get to this stage in your career, and bad mechanics is usually one of them. And his footwork, just really gets him into a lot of trouble. And, maybe him going somewhere else and sitting, or somebody else comes in here and he sits for a while and learns. Maybe that helps him, but he just has some serious footwork issues because he tries to rely on that arm strength so much. He sort of reminds me of how Brett Favre was when he was younger. He just thought, well, I got this gunslinger arm and I got this arm strength and I can put this ball wherever, and it gets you into trouble and you make bad decisions because you're overconfident with your arm strength. So I agree that Drew Lock is on borrowed time, and I don't even know if he'll be around here next year. But my two things that I want to see, my number one thing is I want to see improvement from this coaching staff, because this coaching staff is not going to be gone. And no matter what people say, I even think if we lose out the rest of the year, that they're going to come back. I don't think that Elway wants to bring another coach in on his final year of his contract. Just let's ride it out with Fangio. Him and Elway can ride off, into the sunset together afterwards when new ownership or GM or whatever comes in. But that's one thing I want to see: consistent play calling. Alex said it, consistency. We can't be consistent if we're not being consistent in our play calling.
Right.
Offensive play calling has been all over the board this year. Pat Shurmur's just gone from one extreme to the next, and you need to build an identity with your team. And it's hard to do that one. And I know you're trying to find things that work, and it's been an odd year because no preseason to try schemes out and things out and stuff like that. But you have to get to something and you have to stick to it. And I agree with you on the defensive side of the ball as well, Matt. We need to see improvement there and consistency there, because at times our defense just looks. It sort of reminds me of 2015 defense sometimes, and then there's times where it's like, gee whiz, what is going on out there? We can't stop anybody.
Right.
So, and that's the things. Besides from Drew Lock, everybody wants to see improvement from Drew Lock, but I just don't think that Drew Lock will be here next year. So, and Matt and I have discussed this at length, with potential people coming in. We'll talk about this in the off season. So
yeah, one thing I want to highlight for Drew Lock too. So if we look back, because you mentioned it, and it kind of sparked something in the back of my head. So when we drafted Drew Lock, I think it was hype. It was looked at to be a steal. But one thing that we're starting to notice now that we're looking back on drafts, so Drew Lock was in most mock drafts was slotted in the top 15. Even as early as the Giants. People were a lot higher than him, but as we seen him, as we seen the draft get closer and closer, we seen him start to slide and slide and slide. And history, even here in Denver, with Paxton Lynch, we seen him be super high on draft boards and then slowly start to slide back into this late first, early second, range. and it's kind of been proven time and time. You see those quarterbacks that start off high and then they start to slide. They haven't translated well to the league. I mean, that's not for like people be like, what about Dak Prescott? What about Tom Brady? Well, yeah, none of those guys were ever really referenced to be a first round pick. It really took hard work and determination and good coaching to get them to where they're at. But Drew Lock was looked at one point to be a superstar, and we've seen him just slowly slide. And then he hasn't progressed, and maybe that's why he slid. Maybe teams were just didn't think the mentality was there. Maybe it was a leadership issue. Maybe it was lack of knowledge of the. He just couldn't maybe grasp the playbook, similar to Paxton. I mean, we won't know because we're not in those meetings, of course. But the big thing is when we see those slides, it's.
Let me play devil's advocate here. Drew Lock is on his second, coordinator and quarterbacks coach in 2 years. I mean, he's a young guy coming in. He wasn't super well polished coming in from college. Is that part of the problem at all, do you think? And you just don't have the good coaching that's working with him and helping to build him up.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that it's a 50-50 game. Obviously Drew Lock's got to perform, he's got to execute, but at the same time, you've got to have Pat Shurmur and Drew Lock on the same page. If Pat Shurmur isn't working to Drew Lock's strengths, which I know that it's hard to find that strength of a player sometimes, but what are we in what week is this? 13 now.
Yeah.
So there should be no at this point. There should be no excuses to why you haven't found that strong suit of Drew Lock and why you're not playing to that. Obviously, I know that this, like you said earlier, is a weird season. We haven't had preseason. We didn't have OTAs. We didn't have none of that. So I get it. I understand why there was a little slump at the beginning, but that time is over now. There's no more excuses for why you guys aren't on the same page. Why Pat Shurmur isn't finding something that Drew Lock is good at and sticking with that. I know that this NFL can be very it's versatile and people can find and pick apart your team. But you gotta find a way to win games. And if that means that if you gotta, find Drew Lock's strong suit, then that should have been done weeks ago. So I think that if we keep bouncing around with Drew Lock, if we decide to keep him next year and we don't keep Pat Shurmur, that's a huge mistake too, because you're just throwing this dude multiple coordinators and expecting him to go out there and make gold of that. That's not going to happen. That's never been a thing in the NFL. We've seen offensive coordinators and quarterbacks stick together for years. And for Drew Lock to have 2 in 2 years, that's kind of ridiculous in my opinion.
And then if you even go back to college, so now he's working on his third coordinator in 3 years. So I mean, it can be difficult. I think the coaching has some to blame with it, but I mean, Matt and I have both, identified some of Lock's weaknesses, and I just don't know if those are overcomable items, and maybe with some consistency, as we've all thrown around here in coaching, then maybe Lock can improve next year. So
one thing that I'll kind of just hop on. So we, during that stretch where we seen Drew be real successful last year, there was a couple things. There was no tape on him, which is always beneficial to the player.
Right.
But Rich Scangarello did something that Pat Shurmur hasn't done yet, and ultimately he broke away from the West Coast scheme completely. He put Lock in kind of like a more into a spread type offense. We've seen a little bit of like an RPO type thing. We put Drew back into an offense he was comfortable with. We've seen that. That's not necessarily going to translate to success if we went back to it for sure. But we at least seen Scangarello play into Drew's strengths. We haven't seen that this year. So, could that be hindering his him getting better? Probably it could. But back to what you were saying, a lot of the issues that I've seen with Drew have been fundamentals, mentality. They just don't seem to be there. The best way I always reference this, it's like learning a trade for 18 years and then being told you're doing it the wrong way in relation to his footwork. Even if he tries his hardest and learns how to completely maneuver his footwork, there's a good chance he'll always lean back into what's comfortable.
Right. So question. So we all are pretty confident that, Elway's probably going into his last year next year, and then we'll probably have a new GM, new coaching staff. So maybe do we just roll with Locke and see what he can do next year and see if there is any improvement, and then let the new GM come in and the new coach pick who they want as their quarterback?
Do you want my honesty, or do you want me to? Okay, I can give you my honesty. Honesty. That's not Elway's style at
Well,
all.
and I know it's not either. So,
Yeah, Elway doesn't care about what's going to happen next.
but
Elway cares about what's happening right now.
if you were looking at it logically, would that be your approach on handling it, Alex or Matt?
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, you just got to be real about it. You got to go into these next couple games or a few games that we got left in this season, and you got to truly evaluate Drew Lock's talent. If he's going to be here for the next year, you got to see something special out of him. You can't just keep him around for the sake of keeping a quarterback. Nothing's given to you in the NFL. In fact, nothing's given to you in football. You should have to work for everything you have. And if Drew Lock's not willing or able to get better, then we have to move on, whether that means going out in free agency and finding a quarterback that's suitable to play right now, or if, we've been talking the last couple of years for, basically screaming for a rebuild. And that's where we've been at. Now we're turning this table every year or every few years with this new quarterback. First it was Paxton Lynch. That didn't work. Now it's Drew Lock. And, it just seems that we're on a downward trend in this organization. So we've got to find something somewhere. And usually that spark is going to come from your quarterback position.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if we can go out and get someone in the draft or free agency that's going to help us out better than Drew Lock or give us better chances at winning football games, then I'm all for it. And I think, we obviously know how John Elway works with his win now mentality. It's probably going to come down to, I think, a new free agent quarterback. I don't see John Elway signing
either that or a trade. Yeah, either that or a trade, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
So let's jump on this question right here from Jerry Santos. Will Parks, we're bringing him in, finish out the season. What do you think? Is he someone we need to add next year, Matt or Alex? I mean, what do you guys think?
So I will highlight that we are in cap purgatory for next year right now. We're roughly at 25 mil with Bulls signing, and then it drops by about half after we do our EFR, exclusive rights free agents and restricted free agents, tenders, and draft class. It's going to drop to roughly 11-ish. That means we're going to have to make some tough decisions on people, including Kareem Jackson, whose contract is, at this point, it's expendable. We can say that he hasn't really played up to his standards. A restructure for a vet of, his caliber, and at this point of his career and the amount of money, it's not a large contract, but it'll save us about roughly 5, I think, last time I checked. So if Will Parks comes in and we see him clean up some of those things I said, those mental lapses, drifting from the box, things like that, I could see us bringing Will Parks back on a 2-year, $5 million. I mean, he's going to get pretty close to vet minimum. He's a 3rd-round pick who hasn't made substantial gains anywhere. So just because of where we're at cap-wise, I could see it if we let Kareem go.
Yeah, and that would be a good move to bring someone like him in at a cheaper price, because, like you said, we are definitely in salary cap jail next year, especially with the decreasing cap and everything else. So these off-season discussions will definitely be interesting on how Denver can maneuver around the cap and who's going to be victims of it and who's not. So stay tuned for that, people. Just a little teaser there for you. So we're gonna pay some bills really quick, and then we're gonna come back. We'll do our predictions, and then we got a dedication after that. So, hey everybody, this is David with Rocky Mountain Sports Report here to let you know that Avicor Mobile Power Wash is an industry leader in commercial cleaning services. They specialize in washing commercial vehicles, including but not limited to tractors, trailers, bobcats, front loaders, rear loaders, pickups, and much more. Have an oil stain? Give Avicor a call. Oil spills? Call Avicor. Parking lot, sidewalks, and commercial containers. You know who to call. Avicor. If you need it clean and want the best prices in town, then give Avicor Mobile Power Wash a call at 303 585-1129. All right, it's that time of the show. Alex, myself, and Matt, we've already done our write-up. We've done our breakdown. We put it in the group. So we're going to allow you the honor of going first. Give us a breakdown of the game, what you see happening, and then give us your score prediction.
All right. Well, first off, I'm going to start off and say that Drew Lock is not the answer this game. He doesn't play what we expect him to, and it shows on the scoreboard. I think that Philip Lindsay, if he does end up playing, which it looks like he will, and Melvin Gordon both, kind of set the tempo with our offense, and they have a fairly decent game. But against this Chief defense and the offense, just not enough. I think the score comes down to it, and it's going to be 34-7 Broncos or Chiefs, obviously. So
34-7. All right, Alex is 34-7. All right, Matt, go ahead and break it down for us.
So I do think it does start with Drew Lock. Like I said earlier, I don't think it means he has to go pound for pound with Mahomes, but we have to see him get these yardage plays to open up the run game. Unfortunately, I don't see him do that. I think we see him fall back into the tendencies we've seen him fall into. I think Pat Shurmur is going to veer away from the 12 and 13 personnel, and that's a mistake, in my opinion, which is going to significantly hinder the offense. I think we're going to go to 3 wide receiver sets because of the injuries and the fumble issues, and we haven't been successful there all season. I think A.J. Bouye needs to have the game of his life today. But the main thing is, you got to match. It's not necessarily matching Pat Mahomes touchdown for touchdown, but it's about matching the Kansas City Chiefs intensity. If we can find a way to match their intensity, we may be able to stay in this game. However, I think that's not going to happen. My stat line for Drew Lock is 16 for 37, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks, and we lose 42-13. I give him a touchdown.
Another thing I want to add real quick is that obviously we're playing Sunday Night Football. It's prime time for today. Broncos primarily, as of late, haven't been very good prime time, and I think that adds to the loss.
The pressure.
So
Yeah, I think the pressure is huge of a national audience. Drew Lock knows he's got a spotlight on him. He needs.
target.
Well, yeah, and I think people are looking at him to come out and prove that he's a leader after this fiasco we had with the COVID mess, and which ended up in us having no quarterbacks against the Saints. So I think people are looking at that. My keys is, and I mentioned this earlier, we have to be able to put consistent pressure on Mahomes with 3 and 4 personnel rush packages, because we need to have all the people we can back there to, help us play some zone defense and try to. I don't think we have the athletes out there to play man-to-man coverage. I don't think Bouye or Ojemudia or Bassey are going to get it done. Not against Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and those guys. And then we got the problem of Kelsey, who's just we've been horrible covering tight ends. And I think our defense, if we play the right scheme and we play well, our defense can keep us in this game. Unfortunately, it's the same story we've seen over and over again. Our offense can't move the ball consistently. Our defense is going to get tired. Kansas City's going to start running the ball, with 2 good backs they have in Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Bell. So, it's going to be a 1-2 punch of those two. I don't see this as a close game. I got it 37-9. I don't even see us getting in the end zone. Is 3 Brandon McManus field goals at the end. So,
the MVP.
Yeah, he may be the team MVP this year. So, but yeah, we're definitely gonna need our defense to really help us out. If our defense can get some scores or stuff like that, maybe we do have a chance. But the way I'm looking at it now, breaking down this game, this Kansas City offense is just on fire. And how do we slow them down? And how does our offense move the ball? And I just don't see it. So,
well, and another thing is you got to think about Obviously, former or last year Super Bowl champions. In my eyes, have done nothing but get better from that Super Bowl team. You know, their defense has stepped up. Their offense has clearly been consistently good. And, you know, for a struggling Denver Broncos team that's young, inexperienced, with offense coordinator and a quarterback that can't figure things out, it just seems like it adds up to too much on a primetime schedule for the Broncos to go and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So.
And I think Andy Reid is probably going to outsmart Fangio.
That's a hell of a coach, too.
Yeah. So, all right. Like I said, we got a little dedication video. Today's our daughter's and Alex's sister's birthday. So we're dedicating this episode to her, and then we'll be right back and wrap everything up.
I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. All I wanted to do was cry and cry. Didn't want to see my friends without you. Stayed at my phone like all day long. Wanted to text you one more time. I needed you to know what I was going through. I'm still thinking of you. I'm still talking about you. Why can't I get you out of my mind?
All right. Thanks for everybody for watching that. Scott posted a thing here, 35-13 Chiefs. So Jerry gets one TD. So I don't know. I just don't see it being a close game. So has anybody got any final shots before we head out? Go watch
all I can say is that I'm going to be real upset going into work tonight. So about it.
Hey, be glad. You probably have to leave before the game's over to go to work. So.
All right.
My last thing is, Drew, please prove me wrong. Open challenge, man. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, definitely prove us all wrong. I think there's a lot of people out there, that are just looking for him to fail now. So go out and prove us wrong, Drew. It definitely would be great. So everybody out there, let your friends know about Rocky Mountain Sports Report. We're more than just Broncos. We're Nuggets. Alex is one of our Nuggets content writers. We got Avalanche stuff. Scott Cole is our lead on the Avalanche. We got that coming up. Hopefully we get some hockey starting here pretty soon. We got Rocky stuff that's going to be rolling out. February they start, spring training and stuff. So, let's go ahead and invite your friends. Let them know about us. We're trying to grow this place, so help us grow. I think we're about 268 members right now, but, help us get this thing bigger. Invite your friends, tell them about us. Hopefully you guys enjoy the shows we put on. Tonight there will be no we won't be doing a halftime show today. Also, we will not be doing a post-game show tonight because, the late time that the game's going to get over. So those won't go. I think Matt and I may try to work out some Monday gut check or something. So we'll have to coordinate our schedules and see if we can make that work tomorrow. But we'll post it on the page if we're going to do that. But once again, thanks to everybody for joining us. Thanks for being here, and let's go Broncos. Hopefully we can rock the world tonight.